you can draw this in Procreate. I'm going to show you how you can draw this magical bottle in Procreate. And while you do that, you will be learning all about the tools in the app. So you don't need any experience with drawing or with Procreate at all. And then in the end, you will have a result you can be proud of. All you need is a canvas of 2,500 pixels by 2,500 pixels. And you can download the color palette with the colors we'll be using through the link in the description. It's totally free. So then if you're ready, let's get started. All right, the first thing we are going to do is we are going to draw a simple circle. And for that, I want to use the monoline brush. And you can find it in the classic library. If you're not in the classic library, you need to hit that arrow down, go back to libraries, and then select the classic library. Then we'll go to calligraphy, and then we'll select the monoline brush. And for the color, we'll use black. It's in the color palette. Then the opacity of the brush is at 100% and the size is at 65. And then just draw a circle like this. Hold your pen in place and hold one finger on the screen to create a perfectly round circle. Next, we need to make sure that our circle is in the vertical center. And to do that, we'll go to the arrow here, the Move and Transform tool. Go to snapping and make sure that snapping is turned on. And then when you move your circle, you can place it in the center like this. You'll see that a vertical orange line. And then just tap the arrow to get out of here. Next, we are going to make a new layer on top of this. We'll tap the plus. And here I want to use the Symmetry tool. So we'll go to the wrench, then to Canvas, then we'll turn on Drawing Guide. Go to Edit Drawing Guide, and then here at the bottom, select Symmetry. Now, whatever we draw on the left will also show up on the right. Now, tap the little check mark. Now, let's zoom in a little bit and make a line going up like this. Hold your pen in place to make sure that it's a nice straight line, and then tap your finger on the screen to make sure that it's perfectly vertical. I just need to remove a little part here at the bottom. So let's tap and hold the eraser to make it switch to the monoline brush. And then remove this little part. And maybe we can make it just a little bit shorter here at the top. And then let's go to our circle layer again. And let's tap that and turn on Drawing Assist. So that Symmetry is turned on here as well. And now we can go in and we can tidy this up. And then remove the center part. There. Then let's pinch these two layers together and make a new layer on top. Let's tap the plus. On this layer, we are going to create the cork. Let's tap the layer and turn on Drawing Assist so that it will be nice and symmetrical. Then let's go back to the brush and then set the size to 30%. Now let's go in here and make a diagonal line like this. Now let's rotate and connect these two. And then we'll rotate like this, just so that it's easier. And then connect the top parts. Let's make it nice and smooth. Sometimes you need a couple of tries. There. Then we are going to make a layer on top of this one. So we'll tap the plus again and set the layer to Drawing Assist again. And now let's go in, let's rotate and create the top of the bottle. So we'll make a line like this, then we'll go up here. And then behind like this. Then I'd like to change the brush. I'd like to go to the inking brushes and use the studio pen. Now the opacity of this brush is set to 100% as well, and the size is at 20. And with this brush, if you are using an Apple Pencil or another pressure sensitive pen, then if you press harder, your stroke will become thicker. And if you press lightly, it'll become thinner. Now let's go in here and create a line over here. And then let's go to the layer menu and let's turn off drawing assist. So now we can make something that's not symmetrical. So we can go in here and we can create a line like this. That is a bit broken. And then a line over here. So that's like the top edge of the top of the bottle. Let's also go create a little edge here. That looks good. Now let's go back to the cork. Let's duplicate this layer. Let's slide to the left, tap duplicate, and then let's turn off the bottom one. And then here, let's use the eraser to erase this part. So we'll only see the top part of the cork and the bottom. And then let's go back to the brush and let's add some touches. Let's add let's first turn off drawing assist, tap the layer, turn off drawing assist, and then let's make an edge like this and one here. I just don't want it to be perfectly symmetrical. And then let's also add a few of these little ovals, little shapes to get some corky texture. Maybe a little bit thinner. You could also make your brush a bit smaller, of course. And some over here. There, now we have a nice base for our bottle. Next, let's just turn off the drawing guide. We don't need that anymore, so we don't have that vertical line anymore. And then we are going to make another circle. Let's go here and then let's tap the plus. And then for the brush, let's go back to the monoline brush. And let's make it smaller. Let's set the size to 10%. And now we are going to make a circle inside of our bottle. Hold your pen in place, tap one finger on the screen for a perfectly round circle. Then we can go to the Move and Transform tool to make sure that it's nicely centered, like this. And then let's tap the arrow to get out of here. Then let's make a new layer on top. Let's tap the plus and go back to the Studio Pen under Inking. Now we're going to make a curve. Let's start about here. Make a shape like this. And then we'll go to the right and back. You might need a couple of tries for this. We'll go like this and then back. I went a little bit too far, but we can just use the eraser to tidy that up. And what you could also do, in my case, this might be a little bit too high or this might be too low. What you can do is go to the magic wand, then to liquify, set it to push with distortion and momentum set to none. And then you can just push and pull a little bit until it looks the way you want it to. I think this is good. Let's go to the magic wand, turn that off, and then let's go to this layer, lower the opacity to, let's say, like 30%. And then let's make a new layer on top. And now let's use this as a guide. So let's start here. Let's pick the brush, of course. And then we can make a curve like this. Then maybe one like this. I like it to look a bit playful, so we have these gaps. And then we'll go like this. It's easier if you rotate your canvas. It's easier to make a curve like this than like this. So we'll start here. And then, well, Maybe try again. And like this. And maybe we can also add a little line up here. Maybe let's do that on this layer. Now let's turn off drawing assist and then add a little curve here. Looking good. Now we can start adding the colors. Let's first add a color for our liquid. What we can do is we can turn up the opacity of this one. We can tap that layer and set it to reference. Then let's make a layer underneath. Let's tap the plus here. Oh, and by the way, we can merge those lines of the liquid. That's these two layers. We can pinch them together. And now for our color, we'll pick this one, second color in the first row, and you can drag your color on here and it'll fill that circle. Now let's turn off this layer and then we are going to tidy this up. So we can use the eraser and go along that edge. Of course, this is a tedious task to erase everything with your eraser. What you could also do is tap this layer, add a layer mask, and now when you draw on this layer with black with your brush, it'll start removing, blocking things. And if you create a closed shape, so you can just loop around like this here. And when you have a closed shape on your layer mask, you can drag in the color, but you do need to make sure that no other layer is set to reference. So first we need to tap this layer, turn off reference, then we can select our layer mask and drag in that color, and then it is erased instantly. Then let's add a color to the bottle itself. By the way, once you're happy with this shape and with your layer mask, you can just pinch them together. So let's tap the plus for a new layer, drag it at the bottom, and then for our color, we are going to use this one, third color in the first row. And to make this quick, let's also turn on drawing assist. So we can just start here at the bottom. We can make a shape all the way around. Make sure that it's closed and then drag in the color. I hope you are having fun so far creating your own magical bottle. If you want to have even more fun with Procreate and get your drawing and painting skills to the next level, then I think you will enjoy my Patreon, because there you can find more than 250 Procreate drawing tutorials. There is a great variety of subjects and techniques, and also it's a community of really lovely flow creators. So I would love to welcome you there. I will just leave a link for you down in the description. But now let's continue. And then on top, let's tap the plus. Let's add the color for the cork. And to add that color, let's tap this layer. That's the main shape of the cork without any parts that are erased. Let's tap reference, then go back to this layer. Then pick this color, first color in the second row, and drag in the color. And now we can turn off reference here, just to make sure that we don't start filling things and that it'll follow the shape. And now to make this area look semi-transparent, we'll go to this layer and we are going to use a layer mask again. We'll tap this layer and then we'll add a mask. Then for our color, we are going to use a gray. You can double tap here for like a medium gray. And then we can go in here and color that area, and it'll be semi-transparent. So with a layer mask, if you draw on it with black, it'll mask everything. But if you draw on it with gray, it'll become semi-transparent. Now before we continue, let's change our background color a bit. You can tap background color here, and let's pick the second color in the second row. It's almost white. It's a little bit off white, just so that it's not too intense. And now once we're at this point, let's start adding some lighting effects. And let's start with our liquid. Let's go to this layer and then we'll tap the plus for a new layer on top. And then to make sure that whatever we draw here will only show up on the shape, we are going to tap this layer and set it to clipping mask. Then we'll tap the N. Here you can change the layer blending mode of your layer, and we are going to set it to screen. Then our colors will become lighter. So we can just pick the color that we have for our liquid, but now when we draw on this, it'll become lighter. Now first, I want to use a soft brush. We'll go to airbrushing, use the soft brush, and I want to go over that center area. First, let me show you the settings. The opacity is at 70%, size at 13, and we'll just go over that center area, gently brightening it up. Then we'll go back to the studio pen, and I want the edge here to be even lighter than this. So what we can do is we can tap and hold our finger on the screen to pick up that lighter color, and then we can use that to go along this edge. Just like this. Then let's move to this layer. Here as well, we'll tap the plus, set that layer to clipping mask so we won't be able to draw outside of the shape. Then tap the N and go to screen. And then again, we'll pick the local color, the third color. And here as well, not this brush, let's use the soft brush under airbrushing. Here as well, we'll add a bit of a glow in that center. Now for the cork, let's go to this layer, then tap the plus for a layer on top, and again, we'll use clipping mask. Then we'll tap the N and set the layer to screen. Then we'll pick the color of the cork, first color, second row, and go back to our studio pen. Now let's go in here and lighten up the top. And let's go down here, adding some light there. And then again, you can go even lighter by picking up that local color and then adding an even lighter edge. And you can also do this for shadows. Let's tap the plus, set that layer to clipping mask as well, then tap the N, and this time we'll scroll up to multiply, and this will make the colors look darker. So let's pick that local color again, and let's add some shadow. Underneath here. Something like this. And if you feel like it's too dark, then you can just go to the layer, tap the M, and scroll to the left. Let's set it to 50%. Now we are going to add a layer at the top, on top of this one, but underneath the cork layer. So over here, let's tap the plus, and then tap the N and set the layer to screen. We are going to add some more light, and we are going to do that with this color, third color. And let's add some light on this edge, for instance. I'm imagining the light is coming from the left, so the highlights are on the left side of the bottle. Now I do want these outlines, this one, I want that to be at the top as well. So let's drag this layer at the top. So whenever we draw on this layer, those lines will stay on top. And then we just go along that edge, add a little highlight. Also add a little highlight here. And let's add a big one over here. And one here. You can also add some here. There can be some reflected light from like the underground reflecting back up. And here. Maybe we can make this one a little bit thicker. Maybe a little bit of a light here. Now we can play around with the intensity of these highlights a little bit. We can do that again by using a layer mask. We can tap the layer, add a mask, and then use gray again. We still have gray. We could go over these and make these a little bit less intense. Then let's just pinch that together. So we have our highlight layer, and I want them to be even more intense. So let's go to the magic wand and then to bloom, and then slide to the right. And you can make your highlights even more glowy. You can play around with the settings to give it a nice glow. I like this. I'm at 37% bloom, 46% in size, and 39% burn. Let's get out of here. And then let's add some more sparkles to our bottle. So let's tap the plus for a new layer. Let's tap the N and set this layer to add, which is also great for lighting effects. And then for the brush, let's go to where are they? The luminance brushes, and use the light pen. Now the opacity of this brush is at 100%. I have the size set to 57. And let's add a bunch of sparkles. And the harder you press with this brush, the bigger the sparkles will become. So try to vary a bit with that. And this will really make it look like a magical potion. The sparkles here as well. That looks great. Now all we need is a tiny bit of shadow underneath our bottle. To do that, we are going to tap the plus for a new layer and then drag that layer all the way to the bottom. Then for the color, let's use this one, the third color in the first row. And for the brush, let's go back to the monoline brush. And then we'll just draw an oval like this. You can hold your pen in place and tap one finger on the screen to make sure that it's horizontal. Then drag in the color, and then you can go to the move and transform tool to move it around a bit. Let me turn off snapping. So we can place it about here. And then we'll go to the magic wand and pick Gaussian blur, and then slide to the right on your screen to blur it a bit. Let's go for 13%. And then just tap the magic wand again to get out of there. And now you have created a magical bottle while learning all about the tools in Procreate. I hope you had fun. I hope you will be sharing your work, and I'll see you next time for the next tutorial. Thank you for watching.